What happens when you submit your thesis or dissertation or final report? But basically, at the end of your PhD or master's, you'll have done all your research, and then you'll have to write that up, and you submit this large written deliverable, effectively. And I've got a couple of courses on how you do that and what needs to go into that. But thought I'd just share with you the process, generally speaking, about what happens. So typically your supervisors will have arranged external examiners. Now usually what happens is there'll be 2 or 3, and certainly at a PhD level you'll need one of those external examiners to be an internationally respected expert and published academic on a topic very close, in a field very close to your topic. So one of the external examiners will be international and well respected, and most likely, if you've done a good literature review, you will probably have included that person just because of the scope of your literature review and the important role they'll be playing in the field. So that's so for example, with me, it happened that way. My international external examiner, I only found out who that person was after I'd graduated, but it did turn out that I'd included that person in some of my sources. So that'll be one of your examiners. The other is likely to be more local, but not from your university, probably from another university, but within your region, in your country, possibly even your city. And then you may have a third external examiner that could be from your university, but not necessarily from your faculty, or possibly one of the retired lecturers or part-time lecturers. But that's just the typical format. And your thesis or dissertation will go off to the external examiners, and the most important number one thing you have to do is take a break. So you've done everything up until this point. You've produced a thesis or dissertation or final report that your supervisors are happy to submit to the external examiners with your institution's name on the front of it, and that's very important. They won't let it go off if it's not a good enough quality. And now just take a break. It's gone. There's nothing more that you can do about it. Maybe there's a few loose ends that you need to wrap up, but just take yourself a break. You've worked hard to get to this point. And then be patient, and hopefully within a few months, maybe up to 3, 4, 5 months, depending on how busy those external examiners are, you will then get their report back. And typically their report, and your supervisors should really consolidate them all, or you'll just get the report from each external examiner. It'll be anonymous. You won't know who exactly it's from, but they will recommend usually one of 3 things. Number one, it's a fail, and that's bad news. It's irrecoverable, and your research is flawed, and unless you drastically reconfigure your approach and large sections of your study and write it up again with fundamental changes, there isn't much hope for it. And that's very, very unlikely. If your supervisors have done their job, they will not let that thesis or dissertation go out to external examiners unless it's in a good enough state. Okay, then there's 2 other options. So that was the first. You failed. That's unfortunate. Very rare. Second is there's changes required, but they are significant enough that those external examiners, one or all of them, want to see it back. They want to check that you've made those changes according to their recommendations. So that's fine, and there's other courses and videos on how you go through and use the changes tracker document process to make those changes and get that back to the external examiners, and you'll usually have a deadline to do that, and that is going to be a fair amount of work. If they want to see it, then it's not the end of the world. You'll still pass, but you're going to have to do a fair amount of work, and recognize that you are now tired. It's at the end of your degree. So hopefully you did take that break after you handed in, and then you must get into fixing it and sending it back. The third option, which was what happened with me, is that they sent back some changes and some corrections. In fact, only one of my 3 examiners asked for changes and corrections, but they didn't want to see it again. They were happy that my supervisors actually checked that I'd made those changes, and then you submit that final version of your thesis final report with some other administrative requirements, most probably that your institution will require, and then you're done, and you should be able to graduate from there.